You are cordially invited to the Hellfire Gala. Host Emma Frost invites you to celebrate mutant culture and to strengthen Krakoa's friendships with the nations of man. Today on the Comic Book Report, X-Men Hellfire Gala Hardcover. Stick around and check it out. Greetings all, my name is Dominic and you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I'm finally reviewing X-Men Hellfire Gala. This hardcover edition is one I've had in my collection for some time now, but I finally made my way through. And today I'm going to go ahead and give it a review for all of you. But first, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written by Jonathan Hickman, Gary Dugan, and more, and penciled by Nick Dragato, Joshua Cassara, and others. The issues in this volume were published by Marvel Comics beginning in 2021. The volume itself collects X-Men issues 21, Marauders issue 21, Excalibur issue 21, X-Force issue 20, New Mutants issue 19, X-Factor issue 10, Hellions issue 12, Sword issue 6, Way of X issue 3, X-Corps issue 2, Wolverine issue 13, Planet Size X-Men number 1, as well as a load of extras. And finally, this oversized hardcover comes in at 400 pages. At this time, I'd like to issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's your first look at that X-Men Hellfire Gala oversized hardcover edition. Format-wise, this is very similar to some of the other Krakoa-era oversized hardcovers. This right here is the standard edition cover. I know that the dust jacket for the direct market cover is a little different, so just be advised on that. They even changed the spine. I like the standard edition. I like that kind of gold color motif around it. Very, very classy looking, and altogether a well-made collection. The oversized hardcover, of course, has glossy pages on the inside, and just for your reference, this shares the dimensions of the Marvel Omnibus line as well, so it lines up great on your bookcase with all of your other oversized hardcovers. Now I want to go ahead and take the dust jacket off to give you a closer look, as well as examining the under the dust jacket art and just the hardcover itself. As you could have probably seen, it is a bright neon green with the Hellfire Gala kind of logo stamped on it, it looks like, or printed on it. Very cool addition. That shock of green is a real standout. I really love that, honestly. The dust cover shields it, but when you take it off, that green is so punch-out vibrant, and it's really nice to see. This is also a bit different than the other oversized hardcovers in the Krakoa-era that kind of have the logo stamped. I mean, I guess we do have the Hellfire Gala insignia, so I guess that works. But this really feels like an edition that's set apart, even while it retains so much of the formatting of the previous volumes. Now I just want to take a moment for all the collectors out there to take a look at the binding for this Hellfire Gala hardcover edition. Overall, I think the binding is pretty good. It's pretty comparable to what we've seen with the other hardcovers in this line. There is a little bit of gutter loss, however. You'll see that probably throughout the video. Not too bad, but pretty much standard now with a lot of these editions that I see. There's not much of an eye with these oversized hardcovers, but, still pretty solid binding. I have no real complaints. Alright, with that out of the way, we'll transition inside the book itself to the contents of this comic collection. And before we really dive too far, I want to talk about what is the Hellfire Gala, what exactly is this collection, what are we even looking at here? For those that maybe don't have as much of a grasp on what this collection is, maybe they've seen it online or in stores and want to check it out, but want a little more information. Really happy to go ahead and provide that as best I can here. Essentially, this is a crossover event. I believe this is the second one after the X of Swords event in this Krakoa, Dawn of X, Reign of X, whatever, era of X-Men. Everything post House of X, Powers of 10. This is the second big crossover, and this event is definitely not the scope or size or even, well, I don't even think it has the same purpose of an X of Swords kind of event. Unlike other, let's say, action-packed crossover events, this one is all centered around, you guessed it, the Hellfire Gala. It's an event that Emma Frost is throwing on Krakoa, inviting a bunch of dignitaries, ambassadors, things like that from the world of man to kind of showcase mutant extravagance, superiority, power, and it's sort of a socio-diplomatic, political kind of move to show what Krakoa's position is really in the world and how people should view them. It's a way to really set mutants apart and above some of what's gone before, and to show them that they not only have a seat at the table, but they're thriving. This gala also shows the new lineup for the new X-Men team, as well as something pretty extraordinary that happens on Mars, but we'll get to that in a moment. As far as the mapping goes, I think it's in a pretty decent order. I'm sure it comes out close to publication order, but it's less critical to something like this as a, compared to something like X of Swords, which, every issue of that, even as you span different titles, it followed a very clear through line, at least in my opinion, and you went from one to one to one. This one, I feel like you could almost jumble the reading order of the comics in this collection, and for the most part, you'd get the same outcome. You'd kind of feel all the main beats, but that actually brings me to one of my bigger problems with this collection, which was that it feels very disjointed. There's not a lot of cohesion, and it's hard to even call it a crossover event. It's more of a sequence of tie-ins without a huge narrative through line, but everything occurs over the night or two of the Hellfire Gala. Because everything is only loosely tied together, like I said, it doesn't feel as cohesive as even X of Swords. Everything feels very scattershot and episodic and not really connecting a ton as you read this collection. Because of that, I found the quality very hit and miss. And it's almost hard to give this one whole grade as a collection, but I'll do my best by the end of the review. I will say as well, for those on the fence about getting this edition and maybe it's expensive or what have you, I would say this is maybe one of the more skippable entries in the Dawn of X or, Krakoa-era X-Men titles. I think I was expecting a little bit more. I had heard this get really great reviews, and so I expected a bit more. Some things that this does have going for it, I would definitely commend. I loved a lot of the different artists we saw on this. You get to see that mutant extravagance. Everyone's in their finery and best dress. You get to see a lot of costume changes, and you get to see a lot of these mutants in ways that you don't always get to see them. And to see a kind of social function where other diplomats from around the world, and even other superheroes like Captain America, Iron Man, and then kind of anti-heroes or villains even, like Namor or Doctor Doom show up to the Hellfire Gala. It makes it a very interesting juxtaposition to see everyone out for this big, kind of prestigious event. And I think that overall that was depicted really wonderfully by the artists throughout the book. As far as the narratives go, there was only a handful of really standout stories to me. I love all the stuff with Magneto. He pops up in and out throughout this whole collection, and almost everything with him I found to be wonderful. He does a sequence of almost errands or favors for Emma Frost for this event, and those issues are fantastic. I also really loved the X-Force and Wolverine issues. To see kind of what the security force is doing on the night of the gala was really intriguing and fun. We also get a lot of appearances in those issues of Deadpool, who's kind of trying to gate crash the gala, and I really loved that. I loved Deadpool, so seeing him included in those issues was really just a fun treat. I enjoyed that. I think the primary X-Men issue, and when we get to see the new X-Men show up, and kind of the opening ceremonies, and then the fireworks show, I loved all that. The pageantry and kind of the direction of that was very good. And then I would say as well, I loved what they did with Mars. And this is a bit of a spoiler, but I gave the warning up front. As kind of the culmination of the Hellfire Gala, they actually terraform Mars and put a gate there. Mars will effectively be planet Arakko, and a lot of the mutants that came out of the X of Swords event from Arakko are all now going to be stationed on Mars. And the idea is on Mars, they almost had their own secondary diplomatic event with a bunch of really popular kind of space factions or leading kind of alien races to talk about the fact that Earth has so many divided voices that there's not really a coherent voice to represent Earth. but Arakko has the mutant voice, and they could really be the capital of the solar system that we know and love, and that's kind of their own separate thing going on there. So that's a really crazy thing that people on Earth are kind of not thrilled that mutants are just kind of seizing and terraforming Mars and making it their own. We have Doctor Doom crash that Mars event, which is pretty cool, and we actually find out that Storm will be the voice for Mars. So pretty powerful stuff. I liked those issues, some really good revelations there. And overall, I would say that all of those issues were kind of my standout story-wise that I really enjoyed. There was also one, the Way of X issue, that followed Nightcrawler and kind of his mission to see kind of, Krakoa thrive and populate and kind of have the belief system. That issue was pretty good, but sort of complex. I liked that one as well as kind of an honorable mention. Beyond that, though, I will just have to say, not a lot of the issues stood out to me. New Mutants, the Hellions issue, some of these other ones, Sword, X-Corps, just nothing really stood out there. I actually really did not favor the X-Corps issue, the kind of commercial side of the X-Men books. Overall, again, I just found them lacking. I couldn't really engage with a lot of the characters, and I just kind of felt like they were sort of just generic, I don't know, or placeholders to kind of pad out the collection. Sure, we got to see a lot more great art showcased, but it didn't really have a lot for me. And I almost feel like I could trim out about half the issues in this collection and get a kind of tighter narrative event that I would have preferred, honestly. It is cool that they have all the Hellfire Gala stuff collected in one edition, and it is a great, well-formatted edition, but I think that in the contents, it can feel a little bloated and, like I said, uneven. How it's mapped, I'll say it was just very up and down. I did really like that we got to explore the characters kind of during a fun, important social event where they got to just show themselves thriving. I did like that, and I think that the novelty of doing an event like this at a singular social function is that we could see all the different vantage points and all the underpinnings of what is happening during this event through the lens of all of these different characters throughout all the different series and issues. I will say again that if you haven't read a lot of these other collections, I don't know that you will really miss out by reading this or not reading this. Like I said, it felt very inconsequential or unimportant other than the revelation of the new X team and everything happening on Mars. Outside of that, if you just know that information or just read those small handful of issues, I think that you can kind of just keep going in your reading order without having to completely read all of this. And I know even reading some of the series that are tied in here, I don't necessarily feel the tie-ins were even essential for reading orders of those individual titles. Personally, I think your money might be more well spent on some of the other oversized hardcover editions that follow individual series. Some of my favorite that I've actually reviewed on this channel, if you haven't seen them yet, are like the Wolverine hardcover and the X-Force hardcover. I also enjoyed the Marauders hardcover, no real complaints there. I also think if you're looking for a better event in this Krakoa era of modern X-Men, I would definitely first recommend X of Swords. I think that there was a lot more consequence with that event, a better narrative through line. Even if it wasn't perfect, it was a very fun event that I did not feel like there were a ton of wasted issues. And I just can't say that about this collection here. I think some of my key takeaways from this, or my lasting impressions, even after I've read this, a week or two ago at the time of the recording, I just think that my lasting impressions of this are the way that this positions the mutants at a place of supremacy and how they're almost trying to dominate or push themselves above or further than humanity with what they're really doing with Mars. I think that it's kind of an overreach, and while I think it's cool in my yay, go mutants kind of flag, I do also wonder, are these the foundational cracks we're going to see that eventually topple this whole Krakoa era? Are they going to overreach? Are they putting themselves in this position that they're kind of too high and too lofty, and are they alienating all of the other human brothers and sisters and so forth on the planet with them by doing these big moves like this? They were already teetering on that, producing their miracle drugs and their gateway technology and, creating this, having this landmass and kind of pushing themselves as a superpower. And now that we're going galactic, I think that we're maybe going even further in a way that I'm sure this is going to alienate people. And I know there might be some watching right now that are further along in the reading order. I know I only collect collected editions, so I'm a bit behind. So you might already see some of this. But as a reader, that this is the current place I'm at in this these Krakoa-era X-Men. I do wonder if we'll see ramifications of this arguable overreach here with everything going on in Mars. Another thing I should probably note is that the whole collection, as far as the narrative, ends on the discovery of the Scarlet Witch's body at the Krakoa Hellfire Gala. And the idea is they're asking, where is Magneto? Because Magneto was the last one to see Scarlet Witch alive. And so this leads in, presumably, into the Trial of Magneto kind of little mini-series. I haven't read that myself. I know they released a trade paperback. Hopefully I'll get to that eventually. I heard mixed reviews of that, so if you have an opinion on Trial of Magneto, definitely let me know in the comments below. But that's kind of where this collection leaves off, for those wondering kind of where this dovetails into the next thing. Towards the back of the collection here, we can see a healthy handful of extras, and that is one other very big perk about this collection for me, is that it includes a very healthy amount of special features. We have like the Hellfire Gala guide. It has a lot of the costumings and different outfits for a lot of these prime characters. We have a lot of the cover art, variant cover art, things like that, which for such a art heavy kind of statusy sort of book, these extra art features on the back and artwork sketches really go a long way to sell this collection. This really feels like a prestige format that is really an art showcase. And so for that, I really liked seeing the extras on the back. We get to see a lot of, just like I said, fun costume changes. And if that's something you like about comic books, then this might be the one for you. It's overall, not a huge selling point for me, even though it might have baited the hook a little bit, as I do like the extras. I think I would have liked to see a tighter narrative and maybe a kind of clipping of some of the kind of excess issues that I felt like were in this collection, but it's really great to see these extras on the back. And that's just about going to bring us to the end of today's collection. Again, this is the X-Men Hellfire Gala oversized hardcover edition with the standard edition cover, and I think now all that's left is to go ahead and give this collection a grade. For a very uneven collection, the Comic Book Report is going to have to give X-Men Hellfire Gala a C-. I'm not sure if this is a hot take. I feel like reviews on this collection have been generally positive, and while I do think the extras and art showcased throughout were really great, and there were a couple issues of real substance and narrative value for this Krakoa era of X-Men, I think overall the feeling on this collection is that it's just a little bit all over the place. There was a very big gap in the quality issue to issue, and overall I just felt like the reading experience felt a bit jumbled. Let me know if you felt differently if you've read the X-Men Hellfire Gala. I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave me a like. And until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to check out one of my other videos on the way out. Have a good one.